What's good? You know what it is. Welcome to I don't know, what episode is this?
Is this special or is this just a regular counted episode?
Whatever. It's episode 13. It's the not so Thanksgiving. Y'all are so fucking ungrateful. Where's my reparations festival edition special holiday episode? Mobius is shaking his head like he's not with any of that shit.
That was a bit more hostile than we had talked about. But I mean, Happy Turkey Day, y'all. It's the Thanksgiving special of Unknown Unknowns, and we are here this day before, day of, day after, around that time zone of
Lies and deception.
yes. This is we're in the middle of cooking. We got some Turkey Day stuff to talk about, so we're just gonna get into it.
So yeah, thank you for joining us. You already know it's your host, Shady Cartier, and my very awesome sidekick co-host, right hand man,
Mobius.
my brocifer.
Brosif Stalin.
So yeah, man, this episode, like I'm trying to keep it super light. You already know how we do. We're gonna touch on some current events, but we gotta get into the real shit. Like you already know, pro black, all brown, everything. You know what the podcast about if you've been here before. If you're new, man, sit back, relax, get some education, and just chill, man. Just vibe with us. You know what I'm saying? I hope you bang with it. If you do, we ask a few questions. You can hit us on that IG. That's the unknown period unknowns. But instead of a O, you're gonna put a 0. And instead of a S, you're gonna put a 5.
5.
You already know, man. Hit us on the IG. Answer some of the questions. Let us know what you thinking, what's on your mind. Do you bang with the episode? Do you hate us? No, we're not racist. Just to point that out. But we just here like to keep it 100. Like we always warn y'all, this is not for kids. But we understand this is America in 2020. So if you are listening, kids, you better be taking notes. You better be Googling shit. You know what I'm saying? Whatever we tell you, it's not just about our own opinion. It's about you opening your mind and falling down your old rabbit hole. Like, go look it up for yourself. Come up with your own concepts and ideas about what we talking about. But definitely know that whatever they teaching you, it's probably a lie, which is kind of primarily the background of this episode. Like, again, it's the holiday jump. You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, I don't even bang with the holiday. I don't even want to say it. He said the T word, but y'all know how I feel about it already early. I'm still gonna cook some good food, but we do that anyway. So I'm gonna celebrate with some pesto salmon. You know what I'm saying? Already got the bacon wrapped shrimp. You know what I'm saying? So tomorrow I just gotta whip up the brococo, because we try and stay away from the genetically modified or recreated fruits and vegetables. A little orzo, you know what I'm saying?
Pasta.
I love orzo. If y'all never had orzo, it's like it look like rice, but it's pasta and it's mad good. And I think I might make some bread from scratch. Like since everything is pretty much done, like I think I just might chill tomorrow. Especially with the COVID shit, like I ain't about to do no house humping. Humping.
Hopping.
We will be doing that. Anyway, I won't be doing no house hopping. But it's just gonna be me and Huppy this year. I mean, unless Mobius stop by, like, so there definitely may be humping. If he's not working, which I hope not, but it is what it is. It's no sleep, it's no holidays, especially when it comes to these fake holidays. Like, it's no sleep, it's no holidays when it comes to the grind. And you already know, like, we trying to build a community. We're trying to create a safe space for us and our people. And if you on this podcast, you know who I'm talking about. So what, man? I don't know, let's get into the light shit. The current events side of things. We got a lot of wild shit going on. The election just took place. You already know. Unfortunately, Biden is the president. Um, Trump is sad. His ego is at a minimal. Your
Man, so
man, your man, look at his wolves. He in the cut. He don't want to talk too much. Your man is real. I heard he real chill on Instagram. On Twitter right now. So that's hilarious and unlike him. But look at the circumstances. So Mobius, what's up with this current event? What's going on?
So, at the end of October, he basically announced that he was gonna try to complete the troop drawdown in Iraq and Afghanistan. By pulling us out in such a way that we would be virtually gone by Christmas.
Nice. Shout out to all the troops, man. Especially if y'all actually get to come home, like for real. Shout out to y'all families. They miss y'all already know. If y'all don't really get to come home, man, shout out to just being strong and like holding it down, whatever they got y'all out there doing, man. Shit.
It I mean, we've been leaving for like 10 years now, right? Under two different presidents. It's so
Why are we even here at this point? Like, what's good?
So, us leaving, good on him. I very much support that. We've wasted too much time. This has been Vietnam 2.0. Just bring him home. It's over. We lost. We didn't really accomplish anything except getting Osama, which we probably could have done in a much easier time without the number
All
of people we sent. Yeah, scalpels, man, scalpel. But anyway, so the Pentagon came out and then immediately said, yeah, we don't have a plan for that. He's just kind of talking out his ass again. We are still leaving, but it's not happening by Christmas, and it certainly won't happen by the time the next inauguration comes around. So that's one thing, and then he kind of blindsided the Pentagon with that, and the he hasn't transitioned out, yet. So Biden is coming into the White House with little cooperation from the Trump administration, which means he's kind of been blindsided by that, which means it just makes life harder for him coming in, and then it means that the U.S. military is kind of shrugging when all of our allies are like, wait, you guys are leaving? What? Which also means that the talks that's been going on with the Taliban might be in jeopardy because, well, okay, so you wanted to do this peaceful exchange of power and slow down on conflicts, and now you guys are leaving high and dry. Well, what's gonna stop us from just shooting people again? You guys are leaving, right? Yeah. Conversation over. Have a good, that. So for all the people, like, oh, he's a businessman, blah blah blah. That's a really bad business decision to then just lay. Oh, I got Ace of Spades. Call it, and then, or I don't know, poker shit. So I got a full house. Ante up, and you're like, no, you're supposed to say ante up, and then I ante up, and then you tell me you got a full house and you clean out. You just did it in the wrong order. So I'm not gonna bet at all. Have a good day and walks away from the table. You don't win anything. Like what? So that's just not good. He definitely should stop doing that. Yeah, so that's what's going on with the military and Trump and all his shenanigans. The COVID cases are going up. Lots of state, and we talked about this last episode.
Crazy.
We're going back to phase 1 in a lot of places.
Yes.
We briefly touched on that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're gonna shout out to COVID and COVIDiana and everything that she's doing right now. Yeah, I'm not with that shit. But what I do want to definitely say is this some wild shit. So I talked to somebody. I was like, oh, I might take a little trip for my B-Day. You know what I'm saying? I might pull up at Atlantic City, in the midst of all of this going on. I just want to get away. I don't want to relax and, just get out of town. And, a few hours drive, I'm cooling. A few days out there, I'm cooling. Then I'm hearing everything about what's going on. So like every other day I'm Googling and researching what's going on in New Jersey, what's going on Atlantic City. Like, are they shutting down? Because the COVID cases are rising right now. I talked to my travel agent. She was like, "Oh yeah, I just came from Atlantic City, girl. Uh-huh. It ain't closed. It ain't slowing down. It ain't shutting down. The motherfucking casino's open. It's Liddy Bo Biddy McSmitty up in that town." And I'm just like, for real.
Cool.
So I just find it very like, I don't even want to say odd. Definitely concerning that when I'm looking it up and I'm researching it and they like, oh, the mayor said calm it down, slow it down. Not the mayor, the governor. Slow it down. It's unsafe, blase blah. Guess what? They still doing what they doing like it ain't nothing. Like what?
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing happening. Like the case is not going up. Like people losing their mind over these fake ass holidays. Like I don't know what to call it. I don't want to just go straight down the rabbit hole, call them pagan, satanic, etc.
Fake news.
But this shit, yeah, the holidays is fake news like shit, and people literally putting their life in danger trying to celebrate or be about something that you ain't even really know for real. And we about to prove that. Do y'all even really know for real what y'all talk about, what y'all celebrating, why y'all doing what y'all doing? Because we about to prove it. Hey, we ain't fucking know. And we went to school. We graduated. We both went to college. The fuck?
But we got other stuff to talk about too.
Anyway,
so.
we gonna get into the rabbit hole, y'all. She just run down on me?
What the-
Okay.
Alright.
So, sorry, I got a little heated. It's a little early in the episode, but y'all know how I get. Y'all know. If y'all bang with the Unknown Unknowns podcast, we be getting real excited. Especially about the fuckery. And that's where we going. You got any more current events?
No.
Other than this? We're going to get into that. So, all right. So, let's start off with, what I'm saying. This episode title is Fuck Turkey Day. Or Fuck Turkeys. Either one is fine. But
Ducks
we
are
really
cooler.
want to get ducks are cooler. We really want to give a shout out to all the turkeys in the world. Like, first of all, I want to say, Turkey, you really got it hard.
Gobble,
because
gobble.
around every time this year, they be looking for you, your mans, your cousins, your son, your kids. They be looking for y'all. They be rounding y'all up. They be sizing y'all up. They be looking like, yeah, we gonna fat that turkey. We gonna, let's feed them some more. Let's shoot them up with some more of these hormones, etc. So all of y'all out there buying them 30-pound ass turkeys, I need you to go Google a turkey and see what a real turkey look like. Because I saw a picture of what real chickens look like.
Mm-hmm.
They look like they smoke dope. Real chickens. And so the chickens nowadays,
Thick.
yeah, these chickens is doing push-ups. These chickens is definitely on steroids.
Buff chicken.
Like, these chickens is fat and juicy and super buff. Like, chickens don't look like that at all. But let's get into it, man. Tomorrow is supposed to be the turkey day, the day that we give thanks, etc., etc. What are we really celebrating? Like, me and Mobius had to sit around. We had a few questions, you know what I'm saying? And so we just trying to figure out what's going on. So let's start off with our faithful, free encyclopedia that you probably shouldn't trust at all. Wikipedia. Thank you. Shout out. Thanksgiving is a national holiday celebrated on various dates in the United States, Canada, Brazil, Grenada, St. Lucia, and Liberia, and subnational entities, etc., more places, and other inhabited territories of the United States, which makes sense. But what don't make sense is I didn't know, first of all, that Thanksgiving was celebrated outside of the United States.
Right. Which that got us to our next question.
Yeah, we got we was down the rabbit hole before we even thought we was anywhere near a rabbit hole to go down.
I think this is a good time to explain what a wiki walk is. So you might be reading something about literally anything else ever, and then you click on a different article and go, what does this mean? And then you click on something else, and then you click on, and then you open up another tab to click on something else so you don't lose your spot, and then you end up on like structural engineering or some shit. That's called a wiki walk.
A wiki walk? I've never heard of that. Mobius just put me on to something new.
It is definitely a thing.
I call it the I guess like the search rabbit hole. You started here, but you ended up fucking down the street around the corner, and you're like, what the fuck was I first
What
looking
was I
at?
look? Okay.
So yeah, we definitely went on a wiki walk. It was fucking crazy. Okay, so let's finish the definition of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Okay. It began as a day of giving thanks and a sacrifice for the blessing of the harvest and of the preceding year. Similarly named festival holidays occur in Germany and Japan. Which what the fuck? They didn't even tell us what the name of the fucking holidays in Germany and Japan are. Next sentence. Thanksgiving is celebrated on the second Monday of October in Canada and on the fourth Thursday of November in the US and in Brazil. Brazil, shout out, and around the same part of the year in other places. Although Thanksgiving has historical roots in religious and cultural traditions, it has long been celebrated as a secular holiday as well. I hope y'all know what secular means, so let's just gonna like it means worldly or of a generation. So my mother definitely used to be like of the world. She used to say that all the time. It's the state of being unrelated or neutral in regards to religion. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear because there's just a lot of confusion. And again, when we went down the rabbit hole of like trying to understand Thanksgiving, there's a lot of things we didn't know. I thought it was primarily an American holiday. Boom, that's not true. They taught us in school that it was about a dinner that the Native Americans and the Pilgrims had. That shit was a lie. Um, and then what's pointed out in here is that it has historical and religious roots. So I didn't know about that. That's all very new.
Hmm.
I want to give you some brief history without like OD teaching you a whole fucking class.
Too much you didn't read.
It really is. It really is. It really is. So, like, what is my hood summary? Okay. This shit comes from another country.
Right.
Like, it is not an American holiday. Like, that's basically what I learned. Please go look it up. Please go read it. I'm going to give you a little bit more brief information. But this shit gets deep, okay? Prayers of thanks and special Thanksgiving ceremonies are common among almost all religions after harvest and at other times. The Thanksgiving holiday history in North America is rooted in English traditions. Okay? Key, it's not from here. Dating from the Protestant Reformation, it is also has aspects of a harvest festival, even though the harvest in New England occurs well before the late November date on which the modern Thanksgiving holiday is celebrated. That's not very important. But what I want y'all to understand is that it then goes into the Catholic calendar and what was going on in England during the reign of King Henry VIII, and what was going on in 1536, all the holidays, the religious holidays that they had. And so I understand like that level of the religious part of it because it's very important, religiously to give thanks and appreciate, what you have been given, etc. But it's not like a one day thing. It's like something that you have to constantly remind yourself, like once a week, once a month. Like it's not just like a once a year you go get gluttonous. One thing I think was very important, the 1536 reforms reduced the number of church holidays to 27, from 95 to 27. But some Puritans wished to completely eliminate all church holidays, including Christmas and Easter. And so to me, that's really important because I feel like that was the level of understanding when, during that time, there was a lot of mixing of pagan holidays with the Christian holidays. So we can just all kind of just celebrate it, be in it together. And I feel like they're really pointing out that around that time, like they saw that the holidays became secular. They saw that it wasn't about like, oh, thank you, Lord God, whoever it is that you believe in during that time. It wasn't about that. It was like, oh, we just looking for excuses to party, like for real. And so that was, to me, that's just very important to point out, because what are we doing this for? Throughout this episode, I'm gonna ask you, why are you celebrating Thanksgiving? Hit us on the Instagram. You already know where to put these answers at. But why are you celebrating this shit? What are you going to tell your kids? What do you think this shit is really about? And what's the reality of the situation? Because one thing I can tell you, I hate about motherfucking Americans. Shout out to Americans.
And bullshit and part.
Yeah, shout out to all ninjas. But the shit that I don't like is when somebody be like, nah, when I do this, it don't stand for or mean when you do it. I'm doing my own thing. No, ninja, you not the first person to come up with some stupid shit like that before. Like, you still celebrating this shit, you still celebrating this shit. We not doing that in my house. We not calling it something different. We not like I'm what acknowledge what, but a day off, like that shit ain't nothing. And like I said, when you an entrepreneur Negro and you running a business and you got shit to do and responsibilities, fuck all this fake ass holiday shit. No, I got shit to do. The fuck? If it ain't your birthday, nigga, it ain't a holiday. Anyway, in relation to the Unknown Unknowns podcast, the last part of this really was like full circle for us. Special blessings viewed as comings from God called for days of Thanksgiving. For example, days of fasting were called on account of drought in 1611 and floods in 1613 and plagues in 1604 and 1622. Now, see, sound like to me, y'all using religion to get real flexible with the reality of the situation. Days of Thanksgiving were called following the victory over the Spanish Armada in 1588 and following the deliverance of Queen Anne in 1705. Okay, so when it's time to celebrate, we're going to call it Thanksgiving. But when we broke and we messed up, we're going to call it fasting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's ratchet. An unusual annual day of Thanksgiving began in 1606 following the failure of the gunpowder plot in 1605 and developed into Guy Fawkes Day on November 5th. Shout out to the gunpowder plot. Shout out to not the niggas who didn't tell Guy Fawkes like what was really popping.
Yeah.
The man was out there looking like a clown alone. I did this alone and by myself. You definitely didn't.
He was committed.
This is a lot of gunpowder.
Respect.
And then he accidentally broke his neck. Good money for him.
You want to hang me?
Instead of getting tortured, bruh. Anyway, listen. So as we go down the Wikipedia page, it talks about like Canada, where they got it from, and it was like it's mad confusing. We don't know where Canada got that shit from. They just try and be like us, and or the French also celebrate Thanksgiving. They took over Canada, etc. Well, if you know about Canada, you know their primary language is French, so you're gonna have to do your own history on that. If you never took a French class or whatever. So yeah, I'm just a little confused about like what's going on in Australia. They celebrating in Australia. In Brazil, they celebrating it because I don't know. The president Gaspar Dutra on August 17th in 1949 did something. Y'all need to look that shit up. I'm not doing it. Grenada, Liberia, the Netherlands. Look that shit up. Look that shit up if you want to know. Point blank period. What did we learn? Thanksgiving is not an American holiday, and it's secular in the United States, and religious Thanksgiving is not to be taking place on one day, but multiple days throughout the year. So who do we blame?
School.
For teaching us the wrong shit.
Textbooks. That's the one thing we didn't look up.
No, that's I did. Oh. I did. Ha ha ha. Okay. I didn't do a whole bunch. But also what I was supposed to define was Native Americans.
No, we're on track for that.
Oh, so don't go to Native Americans?
No, but we're on track, so.
Oh, okay. So, so let me point out one thing. Out of everything I read about Thanksgiving, that's how we were supposed to get to it, full circle. Everything I read about Thanksgiving, it ain't had shit to do with what we learned in school Thanksgiving was about, right or wrong.
Correct.
Yeah, I ain't hear nothing about Native Americans.
Getting off the boat, having dinner with some pilgrims and natives, Indians, whoever's, and then everybody became friends, and then all of a sudden they disappeared.
Yeah, that is not at all anything that we read up. So y'all gotta pay attention. You need to talk to your kids about this shit. The definition of a Native American, a member of any of the indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere, especially a Native American of North America, especially in the U.S. territory, before it was a U.S. territory. Mm-hmm. Okay. The legal definition by the Census Bureau, the legal definition of a Native American. The U.S. Census Bureau defines a Native American as the following: American Indian and Alaska Native. That is... I'm confused by that.
Well, Alaska's U.S.
No, I know it's U.S. Like, I need to look at it on a map.
Well, okay, so Canadian natives are called indigenous, right? At least to my knowledge. Where it's above Canada.
To me, a Native American is...
everyone North American. So,
right.
United States and up.
Exactly. So then...
maybe Mexico.
But the real... I guess native is just, like you was there. You the first set of peoples. Your peoples is really from there. You didn't migrate to there.
That's what I'm saying. So legally, it would be all of the United States American natives. But for simplicity's sake, you could be like...
oh, okay. So first of all, shout out to people who took geography and who passed. You know what I'm saying?
You're the mathy one.
I was about money and books and stories, money and writing and psychology. Okay, so first of all, I'm looking at Alaska on the map. I didn't even know Alaska was connected to the rest of the world.
Yes.
Okay.
To us.
I often have this conversation to the rest of the world, to us. I often have this conversation about like
where
things are.
Americans are like, generally bad
in your head versus the reality of the situation. And I must fucking tell you that it was always like Antarctica or something in my head. I can't even zoom out no more.
Greenland, because you're terrible at this.
I'm like, Antarctica's all the way down. Yes. I was trying to go all the way up. So Antarctica is all the way down. And Alaska is like...
right here.
Not all the way up though.
It is not. No, not at all.
Right. Where the North Pole is where I thought Alaska was.
Definitely not.
I was trying to figure out how the fuck people be driving to Alaska.
It is.
Now I see. You just went through British Columbia. What an idiot.
Most people fly.
Yeah. But I've seen tags.
Yeah.
And I know you could ship your car. But like, that's what I thought they did. So anyway, first of all, yes, now that makes sense to me. I didn't understand. I get educated every moment, y'all. And I hope y'all getting educated. Fucking around with the Unknown Unknowns podcast.
We learn with y'all, yo.
And get Rudy. Rudy? Get riled up? Get rowdy. What the fuck? Anyway.
Are you going to eat this cookie?
Not on the air. He a wild dude. First of all, if y'all ain't know, Mobius is addicted to cookies. So when we start giving out our P.O. box,
bail me some cookies.
so we can get some fan mail, definitely, like, and please don't put nothing in the cookies, because he do not bang like that.
Chocolate chip cookies, that's it. Send me your best recipes.
Wow. Okay, so we're really learning. Full circle. What the fuck is going on with this alleged Thanksgiving holiday shit?
It ain't in the book.
I thought it had something to do with Native Americans. I have yet to see anything about Native Americans in a definition. And we are, of course, going to touch more on that. So we asked the question moments ago, who's responsible for us having no fucking clue about the truth? Okay?
Our school.
The history, yes, definitely the school system. So I Googled, who created the American curriculum? Whose fault is it? And you know what Google said? I mean, they said
I was gonna say something you would have said. I'm gonna leave it.
They said ask Wikipedia,
Mhm.
and Wikipedia said the history of education in the United States, or foundation of education, covers the trends in education, formal and informal learning in America from the 17th century to the early 21st century. And whose fault is it? We're going to find out. The first American schools in the original 13 colonies opened in 17th century. Boston Latin School was founded in 1635 and is both the first public school and the oldest existing school in the United States. Shout out to Boston. The first free taxpayer supported public school in North America. Was niggas allowed to attend? Excuse me. The Mather School was opened in Dorchester, Massachusetts in 1639.
So probably not. Definitely not, I'm gonna say.
Listen, what they taught us about the history of what blacks was doing in the United States, and that shit also was a lie. I'm reading all of this history shit, but like this shit this is way farther back than the next question that I asked Google. So we're gonna blame Massachusetts and we're gonna blame New England for starting schools. Thank you guys for starting schools. Thank you for free schools, unless black kids wasn't allowed to go. I'm not really interested. Though I don't know nothing about black people or brown people being in New England or Massachusetts at all. And I mean, maybe I'm just too far down south to like know about what's going on up there. So anyway, fuck the history of the school system. The next question I asked Google was, who created the American... Wait, I asked them again. Was that the same question?
Yes.
To
which the short answer is some white dude somewhere.
Oh, no. Okay, it was different. Because at first I said the curriculum.
Yeah.
And so they explained the entire school system of America.
Which is still the same.
Who created the education system?
A white dude.
I don't know. The answer is Horace Mann. Okay?
Is it a dude?
Of Massachusetts.
It's a white dude.
Of course. He get on my nerves, y'all. Is it a dude? It's a white dude. We knew this. And no, he did not have black friends. Like,
not a one.
Not a one. Hundreds of years ago, most learning happened in homes. Parents taught their children, duh. Rich motherfuckers had private tutors, duh. Like, nobody gives a fuck about that. After the American Revolution, Thomas Jefferson argued that the newly independent nation needed an educational system, and he suggested that tax dollars be used to fund it. Shout out to Thomas Jefferson, forcing tax dollars to be used for something other than presidential whims. His pleas were ignored, however, and the idea for a public school system languished for nearly a century. That's fucked up. And that also contradicts the other article that was read moments ago, because they was talking about in 1639 in Massachusetts. The fuck? When was Thomas Jefferson president? After that. Okay, so by the 1840s, a few public schools had popped up around the country in communities that could afford them. However, the smattering, I never heard of that word, of schools wasn't good enough for education crusaders. Horace Mann of Massachusetts and Henry Barnard of Connecticut, they began calling for free compulsory schools for each children in the nation. Massachusetts passed the first compulsory school laws in 1852. New York followed the next year, and by 1918, all American children were required to attend at least elementary school. Shout out to two white dudes who was like, these kids are dumb. Horace Mann and Henry Barnard. Okay, obviously that's not what they said. But shout out to y'all for the public school system. And again, like, I'm not blaming them for everything that happened afterwards, because what the fuck is the school system doing now? No. But we just want to appreciate them for like coming up with the concept of like, what the fuck? Not just using kids for slavery. Because what else would be the concept back then? Like, if it ain't no school, what the fuck? Kids was working what?
Working.
Yeah, and that shit is crazy.
Which
Like,
continued all the way up until like the 20s and 30s when
in America, because
at
that shit
least,
is
yeah.
still happening in other countries,
Make these
and
shoes.
it's very sad. That brings us to the next part of things. So, and a question
Oh.
to be answered on our Instagram. Hit us up. Um, what did you learn about Thanksgiving when you was in school? What did you learn?
I'm okay. So it was all bullshit, right? Like we even up as far as at least down in Texas and stuff, as far up as recently when, Obama had won the election, and there's still parts in Texas schools that were teaching something completely different about a bunch of things in history. So
That shit crazy.
right? So in my elementary school, in one of our several elementary schools, what did I learn? I don't really remember a whole lot, but it was nothing to what makes sense. Like I even learned in one book, like the original Americans had came of the 13 colonies. They came and hunted buffaloes to extinction, right? Which apparently isn't true. Okay. Well, yeah, there's a number of things that are just wrong, right? And then there's another things that have been omitted from history.
Mm-hmm.
History is written by the victor and stuff. Okay. And then there's this, which is a very, very important part of history because there's still Native Americans that live. There's still indigenous Canadians that still are alive and have a very different view of history and stuff. So, tell us what we need to know.
So what Mobius is saying is he learned jack shit. He don't remember shit. He was probably asleep in class. All I remember specifically is learning about how Native Americans lived in this country before the Europeans got here.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Columbus and his cronies or etc. I remember building log houses. Like I have good memories, and I feel like that was one of the best deceptions that the education system could have painted in my childhood, especially learning and understanding as an adult that I am part Native American. And so it's painful to have attached positive memories, only happy memories and thoughts,
to lies,
to absolute lies, because it's not true, and it hurts to find out that the shit is not true. This is something that we celebrate with family and friends, and we are taught that we were here, that our people were here, at least part of my people, right? Because I'm also fighting with the African side of me that says, well, you're not from here, you don't belong here, you shouldn't have come here. Oh, by the way, that wasn't a choice.
It's not like we had a choice.
We were born here on slave ships. So to be able to have a side of me that says, hey, we were here before you, living our lives, and then we had a dinner and we lived happily ever after. That is what I was brought up to believe. That is very painful and very upsetting. And so for that reason, I found an article that really touched my heart. Of course, I'm not going to get into all of it. Y'all know how I do. This article is in on time.com. Just let it wake you up. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit. Just know that it was comforting. Like, we're not the only people having this conversation. Of course, that would be ridiculous to even think so. But like in our community and our people that's representing the way we feel and how we are affected by this, I think it's very important. And so that's why we really spending our time today just getting into it. Like tomorrow, by us doing this today, we affect change tomorrow. We're not going to use the words, or it's going to be a debate. It's going to be a conversation each and every time somebody says this to me, because I don't know what you're really trying to say. Do you even know what you're saying out your own mouth?
I just say Turkey Day.
I don't give a fuck. Man, shout out to the turkeys. Y'all shouldn't be getting eat up like this.
Dick ass turkeys.
Ain't nobody tell you to just dick ass turkeys. Ain't nobody tell you to put them on the billboard and give them a day so we could just slaughter them. Like, anyway, shout out to the turkeys. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm not buying no turkeys. We pro lambs and shrimps.
Oh,
and
non-traditional Turkey Day dinner. So
shout out.
You making what you making? You making some salmon, some lamb like you did that one time,
No,
a couple
man,
times. No.
We on the seafood.
My boy a couple years ago up in Vermont made some Chinese style food, which was nice. Who else? Like my boy out in California makes, he's got some Spanish in him, so he makes some tacos and stuff, but like fancier tacos. Yeah. Burritos. So quesadillas. So
yeah, I mean, once you get all those ingredients together, that's the one kind of coolest thing about, at least what we've learned about Mexican food. It's like all the same ingredients, but in different ways and different orders.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the best way to have a bomb ass platter.
Mm-hmm.
Like that shit is lit. Okay, so shout outs all over the United States for people who are creating their own version
non-traditional,
of this non-traditional,
save the turkeys.
Way to just still do your thing. So this article was published on the 21st, just a few days ago. In time, like I said, a few days ago last year. Let's get this straight. A few days ago last year. So on some day in Washington, D.C., about 24 secondary and elementary school teachers experienced a role reversal. This time it was their turn to take a quiz and answer true or false about some statements in regards to the first Thanksgiving. Sounds pretty simple. Did the people many of us know as pilgrims call themselves separatists? First of all, I didn't even know about that shit.
Word.
Did the famous meal last 3 days? True and true, they shouted loudly in unison. I don't know shit about that. Were the pilgrims originally heading for New Jersey? False. Like, I don't know shit about that. But some of the other statements drew long pauses or soft murmurs of people nervous about saying the wrong thing in front of a group. Renee Golsky, Teacher Services Coordinator of the National Museum of American Indian and a member of the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma, waited patiently for them to respond. The teachers at this November 9th workshop on rethinking Thanksgiving in your classroom were there to learn a better way to teach the Thanksgiving story to their students. But first they had to do some studying. When Golsky explained the early days of Thanks celebrated, and this shit gets wild, okay? When Golsky explained that the early days of Thanks celebrated the burning of the... I forgot already. Oh my gosh.
Wampanoag.
The Paquette village in 1637, or the killing of the Wampanoag leader Massot's son, attendees gasped audibly. So let's get into that, because I don't want to breeze over it. First of all, like, that's some shit that I ain't even know. Like, again, this shit, like, come on. Well, if we're gonna talk about celebrating Thanksgiving, let's talk about some real shit. Let's talk about what the real motherfuckers who created this shit, what they really out here celebrating. And when you click on it, you already know the photo that they show you is the same lie that's been curated in my mind in the history of what this shit really truly represents. It's some Indian people sitting on the fucking floor because they don't know about tables and chairs. And it's white people being real fucking friendly and nice and saying, what you need? And it's even excuse me, Lord help me. It's even some white lady in the background holding the Indian lady like, oh, you need some help? Come on, there's some food over here, baby. Let's be cool, baby. And there was the European niggas in the background plotting. They plotting on the whole thing. Like, I can't, y'all. Calm down. Let's bring it down.
To be frank, or I guess to be clear, there's because there's so many different versions of Turkey Day around the world. You know, this is the American version that we're talking about specifically, and that America's a big country, and so what happened to Chris's squad, and then like everywhere else who might have had settlers come in and do very similar things. We're talking about the almost uniformed standard version of everybody's teachings of Turkey Day, which is some European dudes came over and was like, "Sup, here's some food. Here's civilization and technology and cheers."
Right.
This
like
is what we're talking about.
Oh, like we slow. We couldn't have figured it out. Anyway, setting people straight about Thanksgiving myths has become as much part of the annual holiday as turkey, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie. But should historians bother? Mm, mm, mm. Does anybody really want to know
Pie.
what the real first Turkey Day means? It was a pretext for bloodshed, enslavement, and displacement that would follow in later decades. To ask whether this is true is to ask the wrong question. It's true to its purposes, and that's all it needs to be. For these holidays say much less about who we really were in some specific than about who we want to be in an ever-changing now. Yeah, that's true. We have to define that with our actions, though. And so I think the best way to define that is by arming yourself with the knowledge. If we're going to say, "Oh, I don't celebrate that," then really don't celebrate it. And if you're going to say, "It means this to me," well, then truly represent that. But you can't recycle something without truly knowing and understanding where it came from and what's the purpose of it in the first place. And so I really appreciate that insight. It's really sick and it's really crazy. Um, I can't. This little part right here says several websites claim that Indians had 6 Thanksgivings every year. At least one says that every day, every act, every thought was carried out with Thanksgiving by pre-contact Indians. And so that's actually a conversation that I had. I met a guy who heavily celebrates his Native American side, like way deep in Virginia somewhere. And that's one thing that they definitely truly believed in. They believed in giving thanks and giving back for everything that they've taken. So, the ability to walk on the ground, thank the earth for having you, being able to take fruit from a tree, thanking the tree, taking flowers out of a field, just any of those things. When they kill an animal, they give thanks, and they promise not to use and abuse which they've been given.
Right.
And by being excessive, by murdering animals just to sell clothes.
By being American.
Things like that. And so it's very important to them. And I feel like that's the type of shit that we pay no attention to.
No.
Please do look more into the slaughter of 1637 of the Pequot village. Please look more into that. Share it with your kids. Help them understand. Like, teach them what's really going on. We don't want to be lost and confused. We want to know what are they hiding? What are they really hiding?
On that, I will say, it gets tricky when you go back to, like, it's not like Europe where all their buildings are like 500 years old and have the names and dates of when they were made. And even though they got blitzed by Germany in World War II, a lot of them are still standing, right? It's not like you go to the Sistine Chapel or the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Those buildings have been around for a long time. If you go to any of those countries, a lot of what's there now, it's been there for a long time. America's only been around for X amount of years, and it's a very, very big country compared to, say, Europe. And so a lot of what we're looking up is a lot of the hard work of a lot of other people's research and stuff. We weren't there. We don't have the ancestry that can go back with names and dates and look all this stuff up. So do take that with a grain of salt when you're looking up, and you go anywhere to look up whatever you're looking up. Just remember that, like, unless you were there or have some family history with a diary, even ancestry.com isn't 100% right. Like, just keep that in mind. We're not the end all be all of knowledge. Just remember, do your due diligence.
Yeah, we do not have, definitely don't have all the answers. All I got is some lies to share with you.
Some
Some more.
time.com,
So,
some history news network.
for real, just little shit, just little shit. Um, so I'm gonna read this, and I just want to paint the picture of kind of like what you were saying, like why it's so hard to really go back and find the right information. And I think this kind of describes why, because of what you said earlier, history is written by the conquerors, not the losers. And so if I don't feel like the true truth of the battle needs to be said, and I just want to make myself look good, well, then I might write in this manner.
Also known as the Vietnam II and the Afghanistan War of the last 20 years. Yeah, we're doing all right. We're getting stuff and things, and 20 years later, the Pentagon's paper come out again, which happened to Vietnam. We're getting our asses kicked. Well, not really, but we're just not doing anything. We're spending a bunch of money to hang out in the desert and do nothing. So, yeah, we're being super critical of our country, but we still love it. We still love
the ability
to
be here.
Yeah.
And,
So don't get it twisted.
Don't get it twisted. All right, so this is another section I just want to quickly quote from the article on time.com. What really happened back in the fall of 1621 is documented in only two primary sources from colonist perspectives. Edward Winslow's account of the bountiful harvest and the 3-day feast with the Wampanoag people runs a measly 6 sentences. And Plymouth Colony Governor William Bradford's later account is about the same length. Evidence argues, historian Peter C. Mancall, that neither colonial leader considered the event worth more than a paragraph. That is absolutely disgusting. Okay. All right. As Plymouth became part of Massachusetts and Puritans gave way to the founding fathers, nobody thought much about that moment. When George Washington declared a national day of Thanksgiving in 1789, his proclamation of gratefulness made no mention of anything related to what happened in Plymouth. Then around 1820, a Philadelphia antiquarian named Alexander Young found Winslow's account. He republished it in his 1841 Chronicles of Pilgrim's Father with a fateful footnote. This was the first Thanksgiving, the harvest festival of New England. And so then it becomes a, history about, another lady who felt like it was important that we acknowledge this day and this time. And then they reached out to, it was a bunch of shit going on. Somebody got the information about her paper over to Abraham Lincoln, and it became a thing, And eventually, whose fault is it? Was it Lincoln or Jefferson?
No. So
what you had read that made it an official holiday.
It was Lincoln. Oh no, it was FDR. So in the 40s, FDR came out and was like, Yeah, with House and Senate and all that stuff, he came out and was like, "Yeah, we're gonna turn this into an official holiday." But before that, like in between, Lincoln and Jefferson and all this other people,
Yeah.
Jefferson came out and was like, "Yeah, I don't like this. It has ties to secularism. It's got ties to other people's religious stuff.
Yeah.
The whole Constitution is all about the separation of church and state. This is getting awful close to." Some religious things that is not the exact opposite of separation of church and state. So he's literally the only president that was really against Turkey Day, and but it didn't matter because some X amount of years later, FDR came out and was like, "Yeah, New Deal and highways and World War II, and yeah, we're gonna do this thing called Turkey Day, 1941 something." He came out, made it a holiday.
Right. And so now I'm reading something even more disturbing. I didn't even get to this History Channel article, and I'm really about to give it up, guys, because we gotta hit this motherfucking rabbit hole. But as far as facts, I'm reading something, and we kind of just touched on it a little bit in the last article. The Wampanoag Indians participated in the giving thanks as a regular thing. We did touch on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had like 6 Thanksgivings a year. For them, Thanksgiving, it was about appreciation of the world, and that's why, of course, they would have so many during each seasons, etc. So basically, what the History Channel article is saying, that in 1621, that was the day that they were celebrating their Thanksgiving when they showed up to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So they was already in a very peaceful place. Like, we're good, we're straight, we got all this food, we've been blessed with all this good land that we got, we ain't got no troubles.
Except the one.
And then they pulled up and fucked all of that up.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we want to shout out to all the hating ass white people through history who felt like this shit was not important and didn't need to be disclosed. Shout out to Horace Mann for creating the curriculum, but fuck everybody else who took control over it and decided that we was going to use this as a way to manipulate who we
history.
decide to educate and what we decide to educate them with.
Go back 500 years, history is cool if you're a white dude, but for anybody else, I don't know about that.
It's disgusting how the education system in primarily white states and counties get more money for education, get more money for funding, but not just that, their level of education is on a higher like default,
Mm-hmm.
like y'all have to get the best education. We're giving you more. And then you go down south and you look and see, and you say, oh, well, they, like, whatever the excuses is, why are they slower? It's because the information was chosen to be disseminated in particular areas, and particular information is to be sent out. And when all that we're being taught in school is that we don't belong, that this isn't for us, that we're just here to assimilate, that we are followers and not leaders, why else wouldn't that damage us? The last thing I wanted, man, this shit is crazy. So we wanted to touch on, shout out to Vox, okay? It was like how history textbook reflects America's refusal to reckon with slavery. So this just really threw me off, y'all. This is about African American slavery. I know that's not what we were talking about today, but I just wanted to touch on why, who, and what, and where, why it is important to pay attention to who, what, and where your child gets their education, who's educating them, and what is this so-called education supposed to be about. This is why this is important, okay? So the article starts with a page out of the Hazen's Elementary History book, page 70. Hazen, Hazens. If anybody wants to go look this up. Like, this shit is sick. I'm reading it off the page. In 1619, Negroes were brought to Jamestown and sold as slaves. At first, the London Company governed the colony, but in 1619, it began to make its own laws. Them and then this is the, a part of the page. I don't know what's the rest of the sentence, but this is what it starts as. Them and found them so helpful in raising tobacco that others were brought in, and slavery became part of our history. Although the charter granted to the Virginia colony promised the people the same liberties and franchises that they would have in England, they were postponed for a long ass time. Let's keep it real. And so something that me and Mobius, we definitely saw when we first read this shit, okay? They put this shit in a weird ass sentence, but they put basically that the Pilgrims found them so helpful in raising tobacco that others were brought in, and slavery became a part of our history.
You guys are so good at doing things
for
us.
Free.
Yes. You don't require food or shelter or clothes. You just do all the stuff.
And this is literally a page in a book from 1903 text about what happened in August in 1619. And it is absolutely sick that the illustration has two half-naked black people standing on the beach before a pontificating pirate and a crowd of onlookers, and the creation of the Virginia House of Burgesses, the first formal legislative body in American colonies. This is a proud historical picture that was put in a book and used to teach white people.
Teach everybody.
Who, what, when, where, and how.
As if it was factual.
As if it was factual. That this shit was acceptable, and to teach black people that this is your place and where you belong. And so again, pay attention.
We talked about this in a different video too, like maybe we didn't.
We did. We got it. We went into some slavery shit on one of our episodes. We got deep into the slavery.
It might have been with you, because like, so growing up in middle school, when I wasn't sleeping class, in middle school,
anything as mobile.
in middle school, watching like all the stuff from the civil rights movement and stuff, they would just, okay, so it's Black History Month, and then throw it on, and it's like, you're supposed to digest this. And I went to an 80-90% black middle school, so it wasn't like I was somewhere else and I was alone to ponder this. But I had always wondered, like, how does anybody else feel about stuff like this? And you always hear the fellow classmates go, I'd clap that dude out, blah, blah. They can't do that to me. Of course, you don't have the context of then. But looking at that and then internalizing it, like, you can become very radicalized by watching stuff like that without context and without somebody to sort of explain shit now. Like, okay, so that happened then, right? And as a result, here you are now. You're free, sort of, and all this other stuff's going on, and things are much better, except they're not really. But back then, they didn't have all that. So be thankful, and move on.
Okay.
So that's just something.
It's. Yeah, like the manipulation is sick. You gotta pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta pay attention to what you're telling your kids, what they're watching, what's going on. It's not a game out here. So before I touch, I feel like we got pretty deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
But, just to tap out for a second, I got my poetry that I like to share with y'all on each and every episode. We winding down this
episode.
This wonderful festive
We
episode.
still there's so much this is just with Turkey Day in particular, but there's so much to cover just of this rabbit hole. It doesn't stop here, but I feel like we can probably come back for Christmas.
I feel like the continuing rabbit hole that we really touch on every episode is like, what the fuck do we think that we know?
Mm-hmm.
And so always that's the real rabbit hole. What do you think you know? It was a fucking lie. Go look it up. Either this is the truth about it or this is some more fucking lies, and you figure it out. But don't let nobody lie to you and you believe that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the spirit of that, let's get in with this poetry, y'all. Of course, I wrote this just for the episode, so thank y'all for joining us and getting with us. Thinking what you know is true until solid ground is removed. Growth and maturity was a joke to id. Trusting and believing nothing you hear and read. Discernment, a gift given to few. I grew up weird, seeing through. Majora's Mask, a thing of dreams. Now so necessary for us simple beings. Knowledge created by deceitful minds. Intelligence, a word never prosperous in rhymes. In my mind, I see through blinds. Through each rhyme and line, we vibe for truth, not lies. Thank you very much. Oreo over here dancing in the background the whole entire time, y'all. Like, I want y'all to know that I'm so annoyed.
Yeah.
So to close this out, practical application, right? What can we do? We already touched on like what your friends are doing all over the United States differently. I feel like they're kind of making it their own.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's Turkey Day, but it's our version. Yeah.
Right. And so I just want to give a shout out to like people who are completely walking away from all holidays that do not define you. Like, what are your morals? What do you believe in? If it's not personal, if it doesn't touch your spirit, like, celebrate what represents you. And so what we found out, this may have been Thanksgiving for us, the real Native Americans, when all of this happened. And it now has become the day of mourning in the United States for Native Americans. So, please share the truth. Give a shout out and a rest in peace, and just please acknowledge, the Native Americans that lost their lives, the ones that are still losing their lives over their territory in the United States to this day.
And Canada.
And Canada. Exactly. Like, they still, come on, man. We're going through it. They're going through it. The Native Americans need our attention, our support, our recognition. I mean, shoot. Go get you an Ancestry.com. You might be Native American too. And even though I don't trust Ancestry.com, so make sure you find the one African American and Africa-based company where you could go get your DNA tested. I just want y'all to remember that you are unique. And so if you don't believe in the holiday celebrated on, the last Thursday of November, make sure that you teach that to your children. Make sure that you still take advantage of this opportunity as far as like it's a federal holiday and you get time off and, days off and all of these things. Make sure you take that time to really help your family positively understand what it is to be grateful, to be thankful, and to not be discouraged by being different or by being special. by not being inclusive, because I don't think that should be important in the household of how we're raising our children today. But I feel like that's something that is extremely damaging to our society in 2020. Everybody wants to be inclusive. Everybody's making it like way more important than it is to be down, to be social, to be doing what everybody else is doing, a part of what everybody else is doing. No. You are unique. You are special. You are different. Our people should be cherished. But the reason why we aren't cherished in the United States, the reason why it's easier to put us down, is because there's a plan in effect that we must be separated, we must be lost and confused, or we can take over, take control, rule, and run anything. And not just this country when I say that. Not just this country, okay? So, whatever your beliefs is, like I said, I'm not celebrating it. I'm not going to nobody's house. And it's not just COVID. Because most holidays, I try to treat it like this is a really good time to like just take to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like a self-care day. Like screw all of these holidays where they want you in the street, spending money, doing stupid stuff. And what we did not touch on is the Black Friday thing. We could touch on that for Christmas, but that shit is disgusting. And we really should have touched on that. We really should have made this a whole it's a holiday joint. So it should have been like a 90-minute official extended play episode. But I'm gonna make sure we definitely get into the history of Black Friday.
Well, we got Christmas and New Year's coming up, so we can do.
Well, they do it again for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, a definite pagan holiday that we don't bang with. We will get into that. We're gonna do a whole pagan holiday episode. I think I'll make it about. And so we touched on the last episode. When you look at your pagan calendar, they celebrated Samhain. It was about the dead. I think it's kind of sad and funny that for us this is the day of mourning. But for them, the whole month is a celebration of Samhain, a god that represents death. So, and many other wild and crazy things. So, listen, just keep your eyes open. Keep your head tight. Try to keep your cap on, because they acting mad crazy. I want to give a shout out to the family of the little boy who lost his life in an extraordinary situation. It's been really, really hard to get more information. The little boy was kidnapped by his white neighbor. And I don't even want to say kidnapped, but the little boy went missing and is dead, and the police wasn't there to help them out. So check out the Plain as Jane YouTube channel. She's been doing like mad episodes on this particular situation because it has been so the story has been ignored. So again, I just want to shout out, and not just to only this family, but 2020 has been crazy. Watch out for your kids. Watch out for your families. Hold them tight, whether you celebrating this day tomorrow or not, man. Take the time and spend it with your family. Educate your kids. Make sure that they understand what's going on. Rest in peace, Bobby Charles or Qwan. Rest in peace, man. Thank you for chilling with the Unknown Unknown podcast. All black everything. Brown, tan. You know what we represent. You know what this is about. A unique experience. Our point of view. From your host, Shady Cartier, to Mobius.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Keep your eyes peeled. And stay on point. No matter what.
Don't catch that sauce.
Please don't.